How you feeling today, Jazz?
I'm good.
Time to get up. Get up.
Get up! Everybody's had the experience of hearing about something online that everybody else says is really bad and messed up, and you think, come on, it can't be that bad, but then you check out whatever they're talking about and realize that everything is worse than you ever could have imagined. For me, that experience came via Jazz Jennings. A few years ago, I first heard the name Jazz Jennings as one of the early adopters, one of the progenitors of the child transgender phenomenon. I probably first heard about Jazz in 2014 or 2015. And at this time thought, this is some wacky thing I don't care about, but everyone has a right to live how they want, so laissez-faire, live and let live. I didn't know how bad things really were, or were going to get. I didn't know how far the artificially dilated rabbit hole went. I do now, and although I partially wish I didn't, it's important to know what's going on in mainstream culture and on cable TV. Normalization of any idea or practice starts with the fringes. Then, through exposure in the media and endorsement from respected, trusted cultural and academic icons, things that were once fringe are being blasted into your living room and into your kid's public school curriculum. When I first heard about Jazz Jennings in 2014, he was 13 years old, and still a relatively obscure cultural figure. But just 5 short years later, Jazz Jennings is the star of an eponymous reality TV series, and presented in American pop culture as an icon and a civil rights hero. With the 2015 launch of the I Am Jazz TV series on TLC, starring a then 14-year-old child in the midst of a gender identity crisis being exploited by wealthy TV executives and selfish parents to make money and subvert American culture, this whole jazz phenomenon crossed a Rubicon. That Rubicon was then torn up, set on fire, smashed to pieces, and thrown through a wood chipper over the past couple weeks. Jazz received gender confirmation surgery. Things were snipped and cut and excavated and bored out, and parts were created from where parts were not. This process was explored for families, for children, at home, thanks to the magic of cable television. This has all gone too far. It's time to stop. So put down the lunch you were about to eat and get ready for a deep dive into, no pun intended, the world of Jazz Jennings. But first, a new browser game for you to check out. Vikings War of Clans is the browser game you've been waiting for, featuring fantastic graphics, immersive player-driven gameplay, rich social features, and more. Build up your own civilization and raid other players. Start an empire, all from your browser, with no downloads required. Speaking of social features, Vikings has more players than actual Vikings that ever lived. You can join players from around the world and find strength in numbers by joining a clan to benefit from working together. Best of all, it's absolutely free to play. One of the nice things is being able to play directly in browser, so you don't have to wait around for long downloads or worry about using the right computer to play it on. Join Vikings for free today using my link in the description box right down there below, and get a cool bonus of 200 gold coins and the novice relocation bonus to give you a head start on the game. Click the link in the description box to join Viking War of Clans. Check it out today. Before we focus like the laser beam guiding a surgical knife onto Jazz Jennings' recent experiences under the knife in the full view of the American public, let's start at the beginning. How did we get here, and why is this a thing? Jazz Jennings was born in the year 2000, but if we're going to understand child transgenderism as a phenomenon and its history in modern Western society, we need to go back to the 19th century in Germany. In 1897, a man named Magnus Hirschfeld founded the Wissenschaftlich Humanitaires Komitee, or in English, the Scientific Humanitarian Committee. This was the first LGBT rights organization in history, and their objective was to campaign for the rights of transgender men, women, and homosexuals. According to Wikipedia, founder Magnus Hirschfeld was, quote, a Jewish-German physician, sexologist, and outspoken advocate for gender and sexual minorities, end quote. Hirschfeld was also involved with the Institute for Sexual Science, an organization he used to offer sex advice to straight couples, advocate for more liberal divorce laws and birth control, and engage in some of the first sex change operations. Hirschfeld's other causes included expanding abortion rights in Germany, running the Museum of Sex, which they invited school children to come and visit, and visiting the United States, where he gave speeches about the need to legalize homosexual sex. He didn't give those speeches in English, however. He kept those speeches in German. He had one message for German ears and another for the general American public. Additionally, he preached his belief that there were 64 separate genders and sexual orientations. He was clearly ahead of his time. Hirschfeld is remembered as one of the first pioneers of the LGBTP, specifically transgender, politics, and an icon of the Weimar Jewish community. As an interesting historical note, his Institute for Sexual Science and Scientific Humanitarian Committee had volumes and volumes and volumes of writings in their headquarters. Hirschfeld published pamphlets like these. This one in particular discusses the third gender and calls for the German government to end the ban on male gay sex. These books and pamphlets were the bulk of what was burned in the Nazi book burnings you hear so much about. Funny how they tell you that books were burned, but they don't tell you what books. 20,000 books and journals and 5,000 images from the Institute were destroyed. One can only imagine the depraved and disgusting content that was destroyed in the fires. Included in those 20,000 books and journals was almost definitely the works of Albert Moll, another German sexologist, and one of Hirschfeld's contemporaries. Moll's work included studying the sex drive of prepubescent children. Yes, the sex drive of prepubescent children. Not just in passing or casually, he dedicated a great deal of his career to observing the sexual response in infants, prepubescent erectile behavior, and much more, a lot more. Enough to fit in his book, Das Sexualleben des Kindes, or in English, The Sexual Life of the Child. Moll was known for his thorough research and insistence that every one of his theories about child sexuality be proven by case study and observation. The sexologists of the time were debating when and how infants developed sexual attraction. Freud was writing about sexual attraction between children and their parents, and we're supposed to feel bad and scared and horrified that their books went up in flames. Remember what the TV and public schools told you, everybody. The people that burned the studies on kiddie sex and infant masturbation were the bad guys, because fire is scary and scary images, and etc. Don't think too hard about what was in those books, all right? From the first pioneers of transgenderism in the West to some of the most modern and visible. Jazz Jennings. After all, that is who this video is about, right? Well, briefly, here's the scoop. Pardon the pun. Jazz Jennings is an LGBT rights activist, spokesperson, and YouTube and TV personality. According to Wikipedia, quote, Jennings was born in South Florida to parents Greg and Jeanette. Their real last name isn't Jennings. The family is Jewish, and their last name is a very Jewish, very long last name, end quote. From Wikipedia. In 2004, at 5 years old, Jennings was diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Apparently, as soon as Jazz was able to speak, Jazz insisted that he was not a boy, and indeed was a girl, despite being born male. At the age of 6, the pseudonymous Jennings family began appearing on television to speak about the challenges of growing up transgender. There were foundations, TV documentaries, and, naturally, litigation. They sued the United States Soccer Foundation, an organization that manages youth soccer leagues, because they wouldn't let Jazz play on the girls' team, despite being a biological male. Financially punishing youth sports leagues for refusing to indulge in your gender dysphoria is pretty bad optics. Jennings then went on to write a children's book, or perhaps more appropriately, let someone named Jessica Herthel write a children's book and sell the license, which details the life of Jazz as a transgender child. Books about child sexuality, advocacy for the normalization of transgenderism, where have we heard all of this before? Everything we've heard about Jazz so far it is what it is. It's exactly what you'd expect from manipulative parents attempting to use their child as a marketing vehicle, a get-rich-quick on the back of transgender popularity scheme. I don't believe that at 4 years old, Jazz was adamantly insistent on being a girl, overcome with an insatiable desire to renounce masculinity. 4-year-olds aren't on that cognitive plane yet. This is all speculation, of course, and I don't know any of this for certain, but I would guess that Jazz, like many kids do, put on a piece of girls' clothing or stepped into some Purple Rain boots or played with a doll, something innocuous that can be resolved with a, hey buddy, that's a girl's toy comment, and you're done with it, and he would go back to playing with boy stuff. I would guess, of course, this is just my opinion, that Jazz's parents sensed an opportunity to make a fortune off of their child. The books, the TV shows, the documentaries, this is a pretty lucrative gig. Additionally, we know that these people are politically left-wing coastal elites, so not only did they have a chance to make money, they had an opportunity to push the political message they agree with, to further erode and blur the lines between gender, erase the differences between man and woman. And in 2015, after several books and TV documentaries, Jazz gets a personal TV show, I Am Jazz, on the TLC network. Not to be too graphic, but we all know the equipment problem that transgender individuals have. What's going on down there doesn't match up with what's going on up in the brain. Actually, none of their body matches their identity because someone born with X and Y chromosomes will never be able to have just X chromosomes. It is not possible. People used to make fun of evangelical Christians for saying there is a slippery slope we should be concerned about. Evangelicals were derided for saying that if we allow gay marriage, all sorts of other degenerate social ills would follow. Many of the concerns they had, or professed to have, were sort of dumb. What's next? Getting married to your car? Getting married to a toaster? You know, that sort of thing. To dismiss the slippery slope argument on account of those silly examples would be a mistake. The sexual revolution has progressed further down the slope than even some of the most ardent evangelicals could have ever predicted. The sexual revolution has taken us from, hey, maybe women should be allowed to sleep around, all the way to vaginal reconstruction and dilation on cable TV.
It's time to stop!
On January 22nd, 2019, TLC posted this video on their YouTube channel titled Jazz Awaits Her Gender Confirmation Surgery.
Having my whole family with me, you know, throughout this entire journey just has been so important. From the beginning, they have just provided me with unconditional love and support. And the fact that they're here on this stage just signifies that we've come so far since the beginning of this journey.
Yes, come a long ways, we have indeed.
You're emotional?
Yeah.
Give me a kiss. Oh, no need to be emotional. There's a tiny bit like, oh, wow, you know, I gave birth to this little boy, and the last reminder of that will be gone, but that's okay. It's just weird. It's just like, you know, she was born and it's a boy. Now I have a girl, and you know, I'm thrilled for her because look at how happy she is.
It stands out to me how Jazz's mother has to repeatedly catch herself while discussing how uncomfortable this process is making her. The last reminder of his boyhood will be gone, but that's okay, I had a boy, now I have a girl, but I'm thrilled for her, and this is really good. Jazz's mother is clearly uncomfortable with what's about to happen to her baby boy. And as it happens, she had good reason to be.
How you feeling today, Jazz?
I'm good.
Time to get up. Get up.
It is so thrilling to be leaving the hospital today. I have been in here for a couple of days, and it feels like I am stuck in one place where I can't even control anything. And leaving the hospital is really the next step on the recovery journey.
But I don't really get the sense that there's any major problems that lie ahead. So I think, at least from where I sit right now, Jeanette and the family will be able to handle things without me there.
If only you knew how wrong you're about to be. Our next stop on this fantastic journey is a video posted on January 29th titled Jazz Checks Out of the Hospital Post-Surgery. The deed has been done, the snipping is complete, and suturing has been finished, and Jazz is now the proud owner of female parts. Not real ones, though, obviously. Doctors had to create an artificial vagina for Jazz by reusing nerve endings and sensory tissue from her old reproductive organs in order to create a fleshy, wet hole that can fulfill some basic functions of female anatomy.
See?
Do you need a lift?
Someone needs to lift on the other side as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should have warned you about that.
Okay. There, the leg thing snaps down and I feel a pop. And with it, I felt this crazy pain. I felt like an incision just popped. I just don't know what's going on.
The whole thing, pardon the pun, is grotesque. Just imagine what the end result of that surgery looks like. Even the best doctors in the world cannot create a visually accurate set of girls' parts out of a set of boys' parts.
The leg thing snaps down and I feel a pop. And with it, I felt this crazy pain.
Imagine my shock when there were complications. The rip and stitch job was imperfect. And just 4 days after the initial surgery, there were complications that forced Jennings and her freshly constructed anatomy back to the emergency room. Just imagine everything going on down there after 4 days of festering, warm temperatures, humidity, pus, dilation. As I was writing this, I was about to throw up in the trash can in my office. It was really gross. Like, I was actually fighting the urge to throw up just thinking about it. If you actually want to throw up for some reason, go on Google and check out pictures of what I'm talking about. Dilation. You can find images on Google, although God knows why you'd want to. Now, here's where the Weimarification gets real. You thought excavations and dilations were gross? Well, just wait until you hear the kind of thing that Jazz, now successfully operated on, talks about with her parents. Here are some choice moments from a video called Jazz Reveals She Has a Boyfriend Coming to Visit.
Just because he's flying down here doesn't mean we're diving in or like it's a huge step.
Can I ask some questions about him?
Yeah.
He lives in Philadelphia, right?
He lives in Philadelphia.
And how old is he?
He's 19.
Did he graduate high school?
Yes.
Is he working right now?
No.
Is he in college right now?
No.
I mean, he's not sleeping here. He's staying at his dad's house.
No. He doesn't have to sleep at the house, but maybe, I mean...
What maybe? No.
No, some nights, would you ever let him sleep at the house?
No.
Okay, but the door is allowed to be closed, and if it's closed, that usually is a sign of something.
No.
I don't know, like, even though I have a low libido and I don't have those desires all the time, I want to still be able to explore sexual things. If I try it and I like it, then maybe that'll create desire within me, you know?
What if I do it and I'm like, oh yeah, that was amazing. I'm not saying I'm gonna have sex.
Get a hotel room.
I'm not gonna have sex, guys. Like, I'm waiting for
Hey,
marriage.
Jess,
You're not allowed to.
Aren't you in a healing process right now? I mean,
You have to wait months. I know, but I still want to be able to like learn how to kiss and do other things that people do in relationships.
Yeah, her parents seem a little shocked by this, and despite how depraved this entire demonstration is, they do have good reason to be.
What's wrong, bigot? Don't you know it's the current year? If you don't want to see your transgender child's artificially constructed flesh hole pounded by a deadbeat black guy in your own house, you're a bigot and basically a Nazi. Women have rights now too, you know, especially trans women.
Oh, right. I forgot. Thanks. 7 inches of depth. Open face emoji. While I entered the procedure with little to no genital tissue, the surgeons completely pulled it off.
I'm gonna kill myself!
At the conclusion of the surgery, Jazz's surgeons were impressed with how beautiful the outcome was. It's better than what I hoped for, Dr. Jess Ting said. I wasn't expecting we would be able to get this beautiful of a result with this much depth. 7 inches.
I'm gonna be hanging from the bathroom!
Yeah, it's well beyond time to stop. Time to stop was 10 years ago when Jazz's parents decided to put their little boy on testosterone blockers in order to prevent him from going into puberty. Time to stop was when this little kid was questioning his gender and his parents decided to use that questioning as an opportunity to get rich and famous instead of doing the correct thing and reaffirming that he was, in fact, a little boy. Time to stop came and went, long before we got to the point of surgeries and lacerations and perineum tissue and dilation. And time to stop is definitely before the story of this surgery is used as propaganda to further normalize this phenomenon in society.
As Jazz makes her way into that life-changing surgery, she hopes that if successful, it'll pave the way for the next generation of trans girls seeking the same procedure.
We know that the public can be impressionable. They can be convinced to buy, believe, and support things that they otherwise would not. Highlighting the story of Jazz Jennings with a primetime TV show is a conscious decision by media executives to put this story in front of the American public, to expose people to a transgender child that was successfully operated on. All is well. And look, Jazz is just as happy and healthy and normal as any other kid. Jazz states it plainly. This is about inspiring other children to go down the same path. With accusations of transphobia and universal endorsement from the right people, the people with the right opinions on TV and in the movies of transgender theory across the media, impressionable parents aren't going to know they're even allowed to push back on this. Their kids are getting it from all sides. The school system, the media, the TV shows they watch, their teachers. It's all around them. And that's what this is all about. Further normalizing gender dysphoria among American youth and making people too afraid or confused to question it or speak out against it. It is well beyond time to stop.